Morning Grind with Pork Rinds.
Welcome to the show.
And a good Monday morning to ya. Welcome inside the Morning Rant again. Dave Garner with you right here till 11 o'clock. The next 60 minutes, fast-moving, fast-paced, as we chop up the world of sports. A lot of things going on over the weekend. I'm here with my man, Big John Davis, joining us once again right here on a Monday morning quarterback episode of the show, brought to you by your friends at Foundation Wealth in Dalton. Big John, looking good today, man. You and I, a busy Easter weekends, it sounds like, as we were talking off air there a little bit. But good to have you on, partner.
Great to be here. I'm also thankful for the rain that came through, because my goodness, this pollen I think is getting everybody.
Yeah, man, I tell you what, it's one of those things, you know, that and it's a little cool this morning. I mean, I've got a pullover on here, and you know, it was so hot on Saturday. It was nice and warm, and then we got a little bit of rain, and then it got cold. Now the grass, man, I hadn't been able to cut it, you know, because it was wet yesterday. You know, of course, it's Easter, and you know, you're doing the family thing, and so I didn't get to cut it. But man, I woke up this morning. I mean, it's like a foot high already. I'm like, man, I'm going to have to go cut grass today, hopefully, to get caught up. But again, hopefully everyone out there had a great Easter weekend, you know, spent some time with family or what have you. What did that look like for you this weekend, John?
You know, we had the opportunity. You know, we married our baby off, Julia and Luke,
Yep.
Valentine's Day, so they wanted to have the first kind of holiday dinner, and unfortunately, Harrison, Nikki, Derek, and Olivia and the boys couldn't make it, but we went up to Cartersville, and they did a wonderful job. Ham, corned beef, chicken, you name it, all the good fixings and everything. So it was a lot of nice. It was very nice being with them, John Henry and Kylie, and of course, Luke and Julia were there, so it was a lot of fun. You know, this is a time of reflection for me, kind of a little story. I used to try to take the kids to the Sunday morning service, the sunrise service.
Yep.
And of course, as they get older, you know, change, and you know, probably back to memories of when I was in LJ, I would take my mother up to Talona Mountain.
Oh, yeah.
Right behind Penland Apple House.
Absolutely.
For sunrise service. And so it brought back a lot of memories, which was a lot of fun.
Yeah, I love it. I love it. You know, we yesterday was kind of chill. I mean, we cooked a little bit. We had ham. My wife made, you know, mashed potatoes, black-eyed peas, kind of that traditional, you know, Easter meal. And but Saturday night, we actually drove over to Athens, and we went and saw the Rock Lobsters hockey match, which first one we've been to. We've been talking about it for the last couple of years, and now that my stepson graduated, you know, from Georgia back in December, and my wife was like, you know, well, we're, you know, probably not going to get back over and ever get to go to one if she really wanted to go to a match. I said, we'll make it happen. And so sure enough, we got to looking a weekend or two ago, and come to find out this was their last regular season match over at Aikens Arena over there in Athens. And so again, we broke down. We did it as kind of an Easter weekend, took the family. We all kind of, you know, the boys got together, went over there. And so, yeah, it was nice. It was great atmosphere. It was a lot of fun. First time any of them had ever seen hockey in person. And I'd been to some Knights and Thrashers games and stuff over the years. Right. But anyway, we had a really good time, a lot of fun over there. Of course, the Rock Lobsters, the name itself is a nod to the B-52s who have the song Rock Lobster. Of course, they're from Athens, and so there's a tie in there to the whole music culture and this, that, and the other. We don't talk a lot about Athens on this show, obviously, with Big John Davis, because for obvious reasons, right? You know, so, but anyway, no, it was a lot of fun, man. The Rock Lobsters, it was fun. They lost. They're the number one team in their league. I think they already had everything clinched, so they were, you know, probably playing a different lineup than they normally do, but nonetheless, a lot of fun over there on Saturday. Hey, speaking of fun, a lot of things happening tonight. The national championship game for one. Final Four action over the weekend. Of course, UConn able to get it done over Illinois, and Michigan basically running roughshod over Arizona. A lot of people had Arizona penciled in kind of as their national champ, but I tell you what, man, there's not a lot of folks outside that feel like it's not going to be Michigan tonight with the way they played.
Well, and I was just looking at Sports Center a few minutes ago before we went on air, and they've got them, I think, as 70% odds, or,
yeah,
you know, or whatever that is. But I will say this, not to be a downer. This is going to be one of those games that I'm going to turn. My wife and I obviously will be Netflixing or doing the crying thing. I'll turn on right before halftime to see the score, and then I'll turn on right before the end of the game.
Right, just to see what happens. Yeah,
and you know, one of the things that I was going to say quickly about that is that I don't know if a lot of people really look into it because, you know, I guess as sports enthusiasts, you kind of dig a little bit deeper. I kind of feel like the last couple of weeks of the Final Four March Madness has kind of been just about all about coaches.
Right. Yeah.
You know, their coaching style. And I feel like that they're, you know, going up to the podium and saying, well, you know, we do this and we do this.
Right.
We're not going to baby the kids and we're not going to, you know, tough love and all of that. And I really think at the end of the day, the Final Four, March Madness, the brand should be about the kids.
Yeah.
And kids only. And so that's, I've enjoyed watching. Of course, you know, I lost my brackets after the, you know, round of 16.
Oh, yeah, you and I both.
But,
yep.
And it's been some exciting games. And, but yeah, I think, you know, you're making me kind of get into it a little bit more with our show and watching it more because I haven't really watched in the last few years. But I'm, you know, I did watch this year, and it kind of got me excited again to get back into the, you know, making the picks and doing things like that and watching games that you probably wouldn't watch.
Oh, yeah.
You know, pulling for people that you don't want to win.
Right, exactly. Yeah, but you got to fill out a bracket, though. I mean, yeah, exactly.
Yeah, exactly. And I haven't done that, I bet, in 15 years.
Yeah. It's good to see you exercising your right as an American. Yes, there
exactly.
you
go. This has been a fun year. So we're you know, I hope it's a great game tonight. I hope that the coaches kind of, you know, pull away, and then I also hope the refs pull away.
Yeah,
and I hope the refs don't make it about themselves.
Right.
Because, you know, it's easy to get mad at the coaches, and then when you get mad at the coaches, you take it out on the players.
Oh yeah,
and so
you're right. You see
know,
that.
And let's not forget. There's a lot of money being bet.
Oh, yeah. There's a lot of money being bet, a lot of money being made. This is how the NCAA makes their money, is off. It's not off the football playoff. Right. That's a whole separate, you know, business entity. I mean, the NCAA as an organization makes their money off of March Madness, off the NCAA basketball tournament. Speaking of the women's bracket, over the weekend, UCLA won their first ever national championship for women's basketball. They beat South Carolina, who, of course, toppled UConn on Friday night. And I don't know if you saw the exchange after the game. Of course, everyone was talking about the whole Don Staley, Gino Auriemma, you know, confrontation there and all that back and forth, which, you know, unfortunate, but it did bring attention, I think, a little bit to, you know, the women's tournament. A lot of people pay attention, you know, of course, to the women's softball and the women's basketball bracket when we talk about women's sports. But, yeah, I don't know. A lot, you know, some people tune in, some people didn't. But, again, that one wrapped up yesterday as well. So
Well, again, I think you go back to you looking at the coaches. You know, and what Gino did was wrong, and he admitted it.
Yeah.
You know, challenging her at the end of the game. Here's the deal. I don't think Gino was going to get the butt whooping he thought he was going to
get. Right. Yeah.
You know, and I'm a Don Staley fan.
Yeah.
You know, but because of how she approaches and she's pulled her team together.
Sure. Yeah.
But my goodness, you got to be impressed with UCLA.
Oh yeah.
I mean, they just absolutely. Yeah. I turn the TV on and I'm like, oh my goodness, this game's over.
Oh yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
And they just dominated the whole way down.
Sure.
And, you know, and Dawn, you know, to her credit, said this needs to be about UCLA.
She did,
because of what they did.
Right, absolutely, she did. And you've had daughters that have played, you know, at a high level in athletics, high school, college, so you appreciate the women's game. And I do, too, especially at that level. Certainly, I know there's a lot of people that kind of dog the WNBA, saying they don't pay attention, they don't follow it. But I think when it comes to NCAA, March Madness, women's bracket, and you're seeing a lot of these players moving on, and we saw the Caitlin Clarks and Angel Reese's and some of those players that tend to kind of draw attention and take headlines coming through over the last few years. I think the popularity of the women's bracket is definitely, you know, leveled up a little bit, and certainly, and then of course the men on display here tonight. Yeah,
I'm sorry to touch you up, but what you're starting to see is a lot more parity.
Right.
You know,
yeah.
Yes, UConn UConn went 31, 32-0 during the season, but I think, and the thing I like about Gino as well and some of these coaches is that they're kind of like Izzo at Michigan State. At the beginning of the year, they're not going to be afraid to play anybody.
Right.
And I think that's great because that's what gets you to the number one seed.
Absolutely. Yep, preparing you to that point.
When you get in and as well as I do, when you get into the bracket, anything can happen. Yeah. And that's exactly what happened.
Right, exactly. That's why you were out of it at the Sweet 16 because things didn't play out the way that they were supposed to, and they rarely ever do.
Maybe next year we should do the women's bracket and the NIT.
Maybe that's what we should do, and the NIT, yeah, and we'll talk about that on the other side of a break in a moment. We are here with Big John Davis. We're going to talk plenty of football later in the show. We got some spring practice notes. We got some NFL news, so we're definitely going to do that. We always like to kind of throw out our headlines here in the first segment. We're up against our first break. When we come back, we'll jump around a little bit, and then we'll dive into some football again. Visit us on social media. Again, the Sports Pigs on Facebook, the Morning Rant. Our show is on Instagram. You can also watch full video episodes of the show daily on YouTube. Thanks for joining us right here on this Monday morning quarterback edition of the Morning Rant, brought to you by our friends at Foundation Wealth in Dalton. This is the home of ESPN Radio in North Georgia on the Sports Pig app and online at sportspigradio.com.
Tired of shouting your business's name into the void and getting nothing but crickets? Your brand deserves more than awkward billboard glances and flyers lining bird cages. Right now, listeners are hearing me ramble on instead of your ad. That's a touchdown for missed opportunities and a fumble for your wallet.
Recovered, Atlanta, game over.
Your ad could be here, making fans laugh, cheer, and most importantly, call you. Go to sportspigradio.com or call 678-454-9552 and get your business off the bench and into the game.
Morning Grind with Pork Rinds.
Welcome to the show.
It's the Morning Rant, weekday mornings from 10 to 11 on 98.1, 93.7, and 101.1 on the H2 dial. WPGY, the Sports Pig.
Back here on a Monday morning quarterback segment of the Morning Rant. Dave Garner with you right here till 11 o'clock. Chuck Oliver, our friend, again the college football king, the king of college football with Southern Sports Today. I'll get it right in a second. Appreciate you guys being back with us right here on a Monday. Dave Garner in with Big John Davis, and we appreciate you guys being with us. Hey, again, the podcast version of the Morning Rant is also available on sportspigradio.com and wherever you listen to your favorite daily podcast on both Apple and Android platforms, including Spotify and Podbeam. You can also catch me on Twitter as well at Dave Garner 777. John, we were just talking about some college basketball, the Natty tonight. Again, on the men's side of the bracket. You also kind of kept your eye on the NIT a little bit over the weekend. Let's not forget, because you mentioned that in the last segment, that also going on as well. So again, a lot of college hoops right now.
Well, and I think one of the things that our listeners might want to know is that used to be the main tournament.
Oh yeah.
And it was huge. It was celebrated up at Madison Square Garden and everything. But no, Dave, as you and I are sports junkies and we watch TV all the time and the sports and everything. Hester went to bed early last night, and I just flipped it over. Well, Auburn was up 21.
Yeah.
And it sure as the world, they let Tulsa get back in it, only for Auburn to, win it in overtime.
Right.
And one of the things that I noticed, again, getting back to the referees, I was literally waiting for the managers to bring out the shoulder pads because that's how rough it was getting that last 10 minutes in the overtime of the game. I mean, they were just beating each other up.
Yeah. Wow. Well, and sometimes that happens. I mean, I think the thing that drives people nuts about officiating with any sport at any level is just the inconsistency. If you're going to let them beat and bang the entire game, okay, that's fine. As long as it's consistent. But I guess, the problem comes when it's not, when it's not balanced.
Well, and I think the thing that happens also, Dave, with these tournaments is that, you have your cruise throughout the year at all the conferences.
Right.
But once you get to the tournaments, you start cherry picking the ones who did well.
Right.
Well, if you haven't worked with anybody, you don't know their style.
Yeah.
So that that makes a huge difference.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely it does. Yeah. So, again, NIT wrapping up as well. So, again, coming to the end of the college basketball season, it all wraps up tonight with the NCAA March Madness, again, national championship game between Connecticut and Michigan. UConn trying to make it 3 out of 4 over the last 4 years there. Michigan trying to win their first since 1989. The Fab Five came close. They fell a little bit short, though, to Duke, years ago there. So, again, hey, it is Masters Week right here on the Morning Rant. That's right. We've talked about it for the last couple weeks, and now it is time. We are going to gear a lot of our conversation this week to what's going on over in Augusta. And it looks like we're going to have gorgeous weather. I was joking around with our morning show guys down the hall over on our sister station over on 101.1 The Pulse. They're trying to find a ticket, man. So if anybody out there knows of anybody that has an extra ticket and you want to send the Pulse to the Masters on your behalf, then let us know. But anyway, no, looking forward to it. I've never had the opportunity to go to Augusta. I don't know if you have, John, or not. But again, it is, to me, it's not just the most prestigious golf tournament there is. To me, it's one of the most prestigious sporting events in the country every year. And it's just, we always say a tradition unlike any other, which often is misquoted, but that's the old Jim Nantz quote. And so, again, we're going to go with that one. But, yeah, I mean, it is definitely one of those tournaments that brings out the best in the competitors typically. It's always tough, but just the scenery. I've seen enough pictures and videos. I've been right outside the course and kind of seen the area. The area outside the course, admittedly, is not really the nicest area, really, of Augusta. Right. But everything inside the gate is just as pristine as can be. But, yeah, man, looking forward to it. Again, all the ceremonial stuff basically kicks off today. The par 3 really gets things going on Wednesday. And then after that, man, it's go time. It's tea time.
Yeah, you know what? I will say this. Pictures do not do it justice. From what I remember, good friends of ours took Hester and I down in 1985, or I think it might have been 86 when Jack Nicklaus won.
Right.
And, I mean, just looking at it, just walking, you don't want to step anywhere because, especially as big as I am, you don't want to put any indentations in the course. But it's just, to me, it's heaven on earth. I have not been back. I don't know if I go back, I could even walk it, with the shape I'm in with my legs and back. But it'd be one of those, if I did get to go back, I would position myself around the 12th hole, because I believe we talked about you can see the 11th green, the 12th hole, and then the 13th tee off.
Yeah, you catch a little amen corner there. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So, but it's, I tell you what, it's amazing. The one thing that's going to be interesting this week is that there is no rain.
Yeah.
So we're going to see what those greens are going to be like.
Right.
And obviously when you drive the ball, if you keep it in the fairway, the roll that they're going to get. So this could really, this could be a week, and I could be completely wrong because I'm not your golf analyst, but this is a week that you might see a 20 under, 21, 22 under.
Could favor a longer hitter.
I think with a longer hitters, and then, take some of those long shots on the par 5. It makes them a little bit easier.
Right.
And, but then once again, as well as anybody, it's all about the putting.
Yeah.
And it's all about the placement of the iconic placement of the holes each day.
Right.
I can't wait. And I just did a little research on the notes. They've got Scotty Scheffler, who's not having a great year so far. He's just kind of been discombobulated a little bit.
A little slow start,
They got him coming in at 16% pick. And then you've got the other guys. If you're not big into live golf, and which I am, they've got Bryson DeChambeau and John Rahm in there.
Yeah.
They've both been playing phenomenal golf all over the world.
Right, yeah. I like DeChambeau, I really do.
I do too.
This week, yeah.
When he, here's the thing with Bryson. When he's locked in and he's on, he's on.
Yeah.
But the thing about Bryson is he loves the fans. He loves to interact with them because that's, he's a little bit of a show.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, no doubt about it.
Yeah. And so sometimes he loses a little bit. Sometimes he gets a little bit too pumped up.
Yeah, exactly.
And if there's a thing that you can, I can't imagine myself going out on the first green saying, "Man, I'm so pumped up," and I'm just like saying, "Hey, y'all, the next 50 yards, y'all need to move away a little bit, so I have a little bit more, room."
Well, I think that,
and then they got.
Yeah, I think.
One last thing, they've got the evil one, Roy McIlroy, coming in at 7%.
Oh yeah,
fan favorite. So I think it's going to be a fun week, and I can't wait to see how the weather plays into everything.
Yeah. Rory, of course, winning it last year, finally getting over the hump, setting the menu for this year's Masters. Of course, is the past champion there, and had a pretty good menu. We talked about that, I think, last week or the week before. Setting the champions night dinner there the night before. I think that DeChambeau, I think, years ago kind of had the reputation a little bit of a meathead, the way he was, but I think that he's won a lot of people over, with his play and his interaction with the fans and kind of, picking and jabbing. I know he had the rivalry there with Koepka, a little while back, and those two were kind of going at it. It kind of became a public thing there for a little while. I think that's probably water under the bridge at this point for both those guys now. But I like DeChambeau this week. I mean, if the course indeed, like you said, maybe favors the roll, the long hitter, you got to like DeChambeau, obviously, off the tee, really against anybody you pair him with. But like you said, to your point, it's going to come down to that short game. And that's always at the Masters where it comes down to, man, is these guys, you just can't have too many three putts, things like that or worse, and because it'll come back to bite you every time.
Right. And I think, going back to the rivalry part, the thing you think about is Jack and Arnie.
Oh, yeah.
Jack grew up in the country club setting. Arnie grew up at the public course. You've got Arnie's Army. You got the Bear the followers. I think today the guys are just too nice. And that's fine. I understand that. Yeah. But the fans are the ones who need to make those rivalries come in.
Oh, yeah.
And come to play and everything. But it's hard for me because I'm a big European fan because of just watching those guys. They play on smaller greens.
Right.
And I just think, and this is just me, I just think they're more disciplined.
Yeah.
But it's hard for me to see Scotty, Bryson, and John all teeing up on the front row saying, "Okay, Scotty, I'm for you. I can't go for Bryson or Rom,
right?
Because I'm for all three of them because they are great golfers."
Oh, yeah. You got to appreciate the talent, certainly, and what they all bring to the sport. And it's hard to not like a guy like Scotty Scheffler, just his personality and very much makes his faith known and that kind of stuff as well. So, again, it's going to be a lot of fun.
And one last thing yesterday at the Texas Open, who I'm a fan of also because he won the U.S. Open, or it might have been the PGA, I forgot, J.J. Spaun.
Oh, yeah.
Well, when he needed to hit a shot on that par 5, I think it was the 16th or 17th, I think 4 feet from the hole for an eagle that went from 16 to 18 under to win the tournament.
Oh, yeah. Phenomenal.
And that's pressure, and that was not an easy golf course.
Yeah, no, not at all. I think the shots obviously is the number one thing. The rivalries, though, is another one of those things. I think that's what makes sports interesting. We always talked a lot about it, and I'm sure you certainly had yours, which we can kind of come back to as well, as far as guys that you lined up across from in your playing days. But you think about the Michael Jordans and Isaiah Thomases of the world, button heads, and you think about. I think that's one thing that makes NASCAR, or at least made NASCAR the way it was at one point, was because of all the the rivalries and the fights and things like that. Speaking of NASCAR Sunday at Bristol, we'll talk more about that later in the week. Some other headlines real quick. Atlanta United, they're off to a slow start, 1-1-4. They lost to Columbus over the weekend. The Atlanta Hawks, though, currently with the 5th seed. They've got 4 games to play, trying to hang on to that 5 spot where they would more than likely tangle with Cleveland in the opening round there. So a lot of things going on in the world of sports. We were talking about golf, and when we come back after the break, we're going to kind of dive into some football. But real quick, the Braves with a 4-game split against the Diamondbacks over the weekend there. We were joking around. I was trying to tell my buddy Billy, who'll be in here tomorrow. We're kind of this whole long ball versus manufactured run thing. Braves manufactured a lot of runs in the Friday night or Thursday night game, put up 17 runs in that series. They didn't come close to that the rest of the weekend, but. I kind of look at baseball as it's like a golf game, man. You got to have the driver, right? You got to have the long ball, but you also have the short game. You can get off the tee in good shape, but like we talked about with the Masters, man, if you don't have that short game, if you don't have that pitching game, if you don't have that wedge working, if you don't have that putter working, ultimately you're not going to find success on the scorecard or, in the Braves' case, on the scoreboard. So I like that they've been doing some things, being able to play some small ball, not just relying on the home run, although they did drop 2 over the weekend. In the back half of the series there for a 4-game split, and we'll talk about that a little bit more tomorrow as well. Hey, we're up against our second break. When we come back, we're diving into the gridiron. Again, we appreciate you guys being with us right here on this Monday morning quarterback episode of the Morning Rant. Dave Garner, Big John Davis with you in a moment. We're the home of ESPN Radio in North Georgia on the SportsPig app and online at sportspigradio.com.
Tired of shouting your business's name into the void and getting nothing but crickets? Your brand deserves more than awkward billboard glances and flyers lining bird cages. Right now, listeners are hearing me ramble on instead of your ad. That's a touchdown for missed opportunities and a fumble for your wallet.
Loose, recovered, Atlanta, game over.
Your ad could be here, making fans laugh, cheer, and most importantly, call you. Go to sportspigradio.com or call 678-454-9552 and get your business off the bench and into the game.
We bring the heat. You bring the trash talk.
Come on, man. Are you serious?
It's the Morning Rant, live on the SportsPig app and sportspigradio.com.
Back here on the Monday morning quarterback edition of the Morning Rant. Dave Garner alongside Big John Davis. Hey, we're the home of ESPN Radio right here in North Georgia. We are also the new North Georgia home of your Atlanta Braves. Again, catch all the action all week long right here against the Angels and the Guardians a little bit later in this week. And then on Sunday, we are the home, as we've mentioned, for all of NASCAR Cup races right here. So, again, we've got Bristol Motor Speedway action, 3 o'clock on Sunday. Looking forward to it as the guys get back at it on the track this week. Again, just a reminder, visit us on social media. The Sports Pig, always on Facebook. Our show, The Morning Rant, is on Instagram. You can also watch full video episodes of the show daily on YouTube. The podcast version of The Morning Rant is also available on Sports Pig Radio daily and wherever you listen to your favorite daily podcast on both the Apple and Android platforms, including Spotify and Podbean. And you can also catch me on Twitter as well, at Dave Garner 777. Let's jump into some college football news and notes.
911, what's your emergency?
Bold takes from the big man himself. It's Big John's Bold Take of the Week, only on the Morning Rant.
All right, back here with Big John, Dave Garner with you right here, and we're talking about bold takes, so we're talking about some different things right here, and obviously the college world, I wouldn't say necessarily be shaken up a little bit, but obviously President Trump getting involved, some rulings going on there, trying to protect sports, doing different things. Some of that, though, having to do with transfers, and we talk a lot about the portal. We talk about NIL, how the landscape of college athletics has really changed. I know you've got some thoughts on that as well as we kind of dive in to some of our football discussion here on this Monday morning quarterback.
I think the big boys have finally come to the table and put a little common sense into this whole thing. Nick Saban was up in D.C., 3 or 4 weeks ago, who I think you and I both agree should be the head of this whole committee as
right.
far as the transfer and the NIL goes.
I was going to say, yeah.
Excuse me. It's funny that you bring this up, Dave, because I just read before we came online, one of the players just got turned down for his 7th year.
Right. Yeah.
Good grief.
Yeah.
So I knew it was going to take 2 or 3 or 4 years to kind of figure this thing out, and I'm finally glad that they're starting to, because we're also losing coaches over this as well, because they're like, look, I'm not recruiting 24/7, to keep my own players,
right.
and basically that's what I think happens. But one transfer is perfectly fine, and then you get one, whether that counts as a red shirt year or not, and then you get a red shirt year.
Yeah.
Now, what they do with the medical scholarships are a little bit different.
Sure.
But this 6, 7, and 8 years of trying to string out is just ridiculous.
Yeah.
And transferring to 4 different schools is I mean, I remember some football players here in Georgia when my son Harrison was playing. He played 4 different high schools in his career, and I'm just like, this is ridiculous. And,
yeah, it is.
So
it is.
I'm glad they finally come to the table and said, okay, this is what we're going to do. Now let's button it up. Let's start buttoning up the NIL team, because I don't know if you saw this, kind of ranting a little bit on the other side, is that they have now, I think, determined like there's like 4, 5, or 6 teams that are now $40 million NIL teams.
Wow.
And that is just ridiculous.
Yeah.
You know, so but
Right.
but that's because the NCAA did not have it all buttoned up at the beginning, and they let it go, you know, just explode, and now they're trying to get everything back into the toothpaste
Right.
tube, and it's just not working that easy.
Yeah, I've always said the NCAA in a lot of ways lacks a backbone, honestly, or maybe it's leadership.
Perfect.
More so than anything, or lack thereof. And again, and we said it in the early segment here today. You know, NCAA makes their money off the March Madness. That's their money making event every year. But when it comes to having to step in, you know, and do something with conference realignment or this, that, and the other, whatever, a lot of these schools are kind of having to take it upon themselves, I think, to kind of do a lot of that stuff. I think the NCAA really does lack a lot of leadership at the top, and that's why things have kind of escalated to the point that they have, to where, you know, the college football playoff has essentially been pulled away. You know, the national championship, you know, the playoff has been, you know, pulled away. Right. And so, you know, a lot of different things there because of the NCAA's failures to be able to regulate, to be able to lead. And so this is another situation where now you've got the government, you know, having to step into it, the federal government stepping into this, which just shouldn't happen.
Obviously.
You don't want that. You know, you don't want that to have to happen. But to your point, common sense. I mean, it's going to take some common sense. I don't think there's a lot of common sense that lives directly at the NCAA level. And so therefore, you've got to have other people now bring that to the table from the other side.
Right, and I think we talked about it maybe at one of our first shows. I honestly think it's going to take a group of coaches or a group of ADs that are going to pull away from the NCAA and develop their own college football league.
Oh yeah, you've heard talk about that. Yeah,
you described the NCAA perfectly across the board. And but I think it's going to take, and I predict it'll happen. It might not be sooner than later, but I predict that they're going to come up and say, you know what, we've had enough of this. We've got enough schools that we can go in and put our own program together, and let's put this thing back on the right track, and get it back to where it was meant to be.
Right, and I know a lot of the arguments from the player side of things as well. Coaches leave all the time. Coaches get well, that's their job. I mean, they're hired away. You know, there's money there. There's their livelihood. I mean, I get it now. The student athletes could argue, I guess, the same thing. And I'm like you, John. I mean, I'm all for the student athletes getting what's deserved. I mean, if they can make money, great, you know, because a lot of these guys, unlike, you know, a lot of other normal, quote unquote, normal college students, they can't really go get a job. I mean, obviously, if you're playing a sport, you know, you're not going to have a whole lot of time. I mean, there are some people that do that work outside of school and their sport, but it's rare and it's hard to do that. So I'm all for it. But at the same time, I don't think it's the same. I don't think it's an apples to apples comparison. It's like, well, coaches leave all the time. Well, yeah, but that's always been the case. I mean, for the most part, I mean, they get a deal. You know, they're gonna go somewhere. But as a student, you know, I'm like you. I don't care so much for the switch around. I'm glad there's something there that says, hey, you know, because that's the way it used to be. Like if you transferred down a level or laterally, you had to sit out a year, you know. If you transferred up, you could play immediately if you were moving up the ladder. But, you know, I think there needs to be some semblance of common sense now with some of these rulings and things, to your point.
And I think, Dave, we're going to be talking about the same thing in the fall.
Oh,
you
yeah.
know, I just think it's just a conversation that's not going to go away. I will say this, though, and I'm not going to say who said it. I think the NIL it needs to be performance based.
Yeah.
Again, you and I agree. We want the kids to make money.
Right.
Am I a little jealous? Yeah, but back when I had to play well. Now, did I get rewarded outside the stadium? I did,
Yeah.
and I appreciated that. But
Right.
when these kids were signing for $500,000, $600,000, $700,000 at the beginning of the season, what motivation? I'm sorry, we're still dealing with 18 to 21-year-old kids.
All right, at the end of the day,
is there?
Yeah.
Unless you have that edge that you want to go play in the NFL, when you've got a kid that's coming in here making $500,000, Dave, that's a big change for those kids.
Oh yeah.
And then they don't play well. And
Right.
I'm just saying, I've heard from a couple of little birdies, they're not happy with, some of these kids who aren't performing after wanting to have, their South.
Yeah, well, there needs to be some responsibility. They need to understand whether they're 18 or 28. That there's a little bit of responsibility with making that money, and you got to play. So I'm all about the performance-based stuff there as well. Back when I was just a walk-on scrub, and I remember it was legal even back then in the 90s or what have you, that you could with recruits you could take a certain amount of money, take recruits out like a stipend or whatever that was kind of below the level, and it was legal even through the NCAA. But it just makes me wonder, and I know you got a lot more insight on this as well, but how many times you leave the locker room after a game, after a good performance, and maybe there's a booster that slips a little envelope in that jacket of yours there or whatever in that duffel bag. So
well, let me tell you this.
I don't want to get anybody in trouble.
Let's see if I've got enough time. I won't say the team. I won't say the color of their uniforms. But I remember during recruiting, we'd go into the meeting room with the coach, and the coach would just hand the player envelope of money and said, take him out.
Okay.
Well, we would go out, and I'd look at the player, and he would look at the money, and he would just divide it in half immediately and stick half in his pocket.
Oh, wow. Okay, yeah.
And then we would take the other half out.
Oh, okay, there we go. Yeah.
So he was taking care of himself on both ways.
Yeah, it sounds like it.
No money ever changed hands because, thankfully my dad told me, he said, son, walk away. And I said, because nothing good can happen. And he's right. I remember I think I told you, I remember going to one school, David, and there was, at the time, the nicest stereo system that you could ever imagine laying on my bed.
Wow.
And with an envelope.
Yeah.
And I was like, I called my dad. He says, walk away.
Yeah.
And I did, And my roommate did too.
Yeah.
And it ended up my roommate and I played at Georgia Tech together.
Now, how about that?
So,
see, you appreciated
it's
the fact
there.
that, right, that Tech didn't do that.
It's out there. Again, like I tell the kids, and I told you the other day, I said, son, I had to earn mine. I said, because let me tell you something. If we had social media back when I played, I said, we would have been social media back then would have been so much worse than today.
Oh, yeah, no doubt.
Because, that generation of fathers with us being players, you should have heard some of the things I was called. And these were from parents. And so,
not even the guy you're lined up across, man. I mean,
Exactly. So, and you know what? And it really didn't hurt my feelings because, I always knew if I played bad or if I played good or if it was justified.
Yeah.
And then I always knew when I walked out after the game, at night when Hester and I would go out to dinner or something, whatever's in my pocket was whatever people thought that if I played well or didn't.
Yeah, there you go. Man, I love it. But you earned it. You weren't just giving it. Yeah, absolutely. There you go. Hey, we're up against our last break, man. Good talk right here on this Monday morning quarterback edition of the Morning Rant, Monday through Friday, right here on WPGY, the Sports Pig. We're going to take our final break. When we come back, we'll continue the football discussion right here. We'll branch into the pro side of things as well with our man, Big John Davis, right here on the Morning Rant. We're the home of ESPN Radio in North Georgia on the Sports Pig app and online at sportspigradio.com.
Tired of shouting your business's name into the void and getting nothing but crickets? Your brand deserves more than awkward billboard glances and flyers lining bird cages. Right now, listeners are hearing me ramble on instead of your ad. That's a touchdown for missed opportunities and a fumble for your wallet.
Loose, recovered, Atlanta, game over.
Your ad could be here, making fans laugh, cheer, and most importantly, call you. Go to sportspigradio.com or call 678-454-9552 and get your business off the bench and into the game.
Big opinions
Nobody pray for me.
of the big
It's been that day
games
for me.
from the big mouths.
Man, I think it's just ridiculous.
Yeah.
It's the Morning Rant on WPGY The Sports Pig, North Georgia's home for ESPN Radio.
Sit down.
Back here on the Monday morning quarterback segment again of the Morning Rant, our Monday morning quarterback edition, brought to you by your friends at Foundation Wealth in Dalton. Dave Garner alongside Big John Davis right here. It is spring break for a lot of our area high schools this week. I know Murray County High School, they have a parade planned for next Friday to honor their state championship girls basketball teams with an S. Not just the high school, but also some of their rec department teams as well. And so we're going to talk more about that. Again, that is going to be not this Friday, but next Friday. And we do want to remind folks, again, if you've got information from your area high schools or from your areas that you want to share with us, definitely do that, man. Forward us, send us some messages on our social media and let us know so we can talk about it.
Yeah, and I'm just going to mention one just because I'm good friends with the family, but our Bubba Callahan up in Jasper, up in LJ, has had a phenomenal career going into his senior year.
Yep.
Young man's already gotten an offer from all the military schools, which is, is phenomenal.
Yes.
At best. And so happy for him. And then Coastal Carolina, and there's a couple of others that are sprinkled in there. So It's always, again, you're making me do this, which I appreciate, but it's always nice to celebrate these young women and men that are coming up that and one of the Callahan girls just graduated. Chris Callahan's daughter had a great career at Berry, basketball.
Oh yeah,
I don't know. You might have followed her. I'm not for sure. I think you did a little work over there.
Yeah, we did.
A few years ago.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
So it's always great to we need to celebrate these young women and men and give them a shout out, especially with your platform and us being able to reach an audience in North Georgia and sometimes beyond with our with our app presence and everything, and just kind of let everybody know that we do have some good athletes up in this area.
Yeah, and we always say, we're not a local radio station, but we are a regional station that covers local high schools. We have a lot of area schools, so whether it's information about student athletes or about the program in general, we definitely want to share that because really that's what gives us a differentiator, if you will, from the rest of our national ESPN lineup and all those sorts of things. We say it, we are the home of ESPN Radio here in North Georgia, but we are local to North Georgia, especially this show specifically, and so we do want to showcase our local schools and colleges, even Reinhardt, North Georgia, college. Anybody close by, so we definitely want to do that. And so, if you have any information you want to share that you want us to get out during the show, feel free to reach out to us on social media, or you can certainly message me as well directly, and John and I will talk about it. The other co-hosts will get out there as well. We've talked about, high school basketball, high school baseball, things like that, but you're right, there's a lot of great student athletes. We talked about it last week, doing a lot of big things, even Power 5 things, which weren't traditionally the case with a lot of our schools. But now we're starting to see some of those athletes, like you were talking about just a moment ago, that are getting these scholarship offers and making big things happen at the next level.
Right. Well, and how cool is it? Again, now, a lot of people might not think that this is a big deal for these young ladies, but how cool is it that they're going to have a parade for them over in Murray County?
Yep.
That's a memory. That's a lifelong memory.
Oh, absolutely.
And again, going back to we talked about, these young ladies had a chance to meet with the last Murray County champions back in the 60s.
Yeah.
And how cool would it be to combine both of them and just, show the history? Because, listen, I grew up in Murray County for a little over a year, and my Uncle Gary would take me to all the basketball games, and they were great back in the 70s. And they've got a huge tradition over there, and so but the memories that they are making, I just think is awesome. As I'm getting older, I'm starting to enjoy those a little bit more, know, because
you learn to appreciate it.
Before I was 50 years old, I was just like, I don't like anybody. Don't talk to me about anybody. It's only Gilmer County and Georgia Tech, and
that's it.
And
that's it.
But to see this, especially, I know how hard it is in North Georgia to get the attention, because we do have athletes that are sprinkled through there, but it just seems like over the last 10, 15 years, you're getting more and more of these athletes that are coming through. And a lot of it goes back to coaching, great coaching, and then social media. Social media is able to get all these kids out there, which is fantastic. That's one thing that I will say that's good about social media is it gives them a platform to get their name out there.
Right. I mean, links to their huddle videos and things like that. Definitely a lot more recruiting tools now for a lot of these student athletes, indeed, to get noticed out there. So, again, we want you to share that with us right here. We are your program, again, in North Georgia, and we do want to incorporate as much, middle school, high school, even rec sports, man. If you've got a story or you've got someone you want to showcase right here, we will definitely do that. Now we transition back to the gridiron.
From the buzzer beaters to the big hits. If it's making noise in the world of sports, we've got something to say about it. This is
Now That's What I'm Talking About.
That's what I'm talking about.
Your all-access pass to the hottest takes in the world of sports.
This version of Now That's What I'm Talking About, brought to you by your friends at Biggins Barbecue. Again, the best barbecue in North Georgia, located right off of Highway 515 in Talking Rock. Biggins Barbecue with us right here again on this Monday morning quarterback edition of the Morning Rant. John, we were talking about football earlier before the break. There's some of the rules, some of the things, of course, being handed down there, but more specifically in the world of spring football practice. I know we were diving into that a little bit last week. Of course, NFL news as well. Anything in particular that you've picked up? You had the opportunity to go down to Georgia Tech spring football practice last week and kind of check in with the guys. I know we were talking about Big Red down there, Keelan Rutledge and some of those guys there. But your thoughts, man, as we climb closer to those spring games coming up this weekend and next weekend, respectively, for a lot of our schools.
Which will be exciting as well, because it'll give you kind of a glimpse of what's going on for the upcoming season.
Yeah.
Again, it goes back to, without getting into it more and more, I think they're working on specifics. They're trying to build that two-line roster.
Yeah.
I think Georgia Tech is really working hard on their defensive line. I was told, that was a huge priority. The defense basically was a huge priority with the defensive line and the defensive backs. And Coach Key feels very good that he has made upgrades in every position.
Yeah.
And I just read an article. One of my old teammates, Daryl Gast, sent me an article the other day talking about they're taking on a new persona of being mean.
Yeah.
Now, whenever I hear that, I feel pretty good, because it takes.
That's what you want, man. That's what you gotta have.
Yeah, and it reminds me back in the day of the old 84 and 85 team with the Black Watch at Georgia Tech.
Yep.
They took on their own persona, and records are put to the side. I don't care. That's one of the meanest bunch of kids that I ever played against. And they set the standard.
Right.
And I'm looking to see that at Georgia Tech. Hey, listen, I'm not going to get upset with a 15-yard flag, unless it's just a terrific one. But I'm not going to be upset with playing hard after the whistle.
Yeah.
Because everybody else is. And so we need to get off of that. Let's be nice.
Yeah.
And so that's one of the things that I'm excited about with the defense. I feel really good about the offensive line.
Mm-hmm.
I feel really good about our offensive game planning.
Sure.
But the defense has let us down a little bit. And I think, Brent went out and he's like, okay, this is what we're addressing, and he feels really good about it.
Yeah, we were talking about, of course, Tech spring game in a couple weeks, Alabama this weekend, Georgia Tech next weekend, Tennessee coming up as well. There, I wanted to ask you, I almost forgot to do this, but I wanted to find out, we were talking earlier in the show about rivals, and so specifically to you, before we get out of here, was there ever anybody that you lined up against that kind of became a rival, someone maybe you look forward to lining up against from a challenge standpoint or what have you? I mean, who were some of your, quote-unquote rivals back in the day at any level?
Well, one, I never looked forward to lining up to anybody. I wanted nobody on me. I wanted to be the one that could go hide and help everybody else.
There you go. Scrape to the next level. There we go.
Yeah, so it's funny you say that because, I was drafted by Houston, and there was a very good, if not great, defensive lineman, Ray Childress from Texas A&M.
Yeah.
And I don't know why, but my offensive line buddies, the Hall of Famers, Munchak, Matthews, Steinkuhler, all those guys, they just kept egging it on because Ray Childress was one of those guys that went 100 miles an hour during practice, even if it was a walkthrough.
Right.
And so I was, and they're like, dude, you got to help us out here. And I'm like, I'm the man. So Ray and I went through 2 years of hell. I mean, I'm not going to say we got in a fight every day, but it was close.
It was a fight,
But I learned so much from that when I went to Buffalo and we started playing Houston all the time, I knew, believe it or not, because it's all about watching film.
Yeah.
It's all about, studying your opponent.
Sure.
But I studied Ray. I had 2 years with him, and then I would study him on the film. I knew what he was doing every single play.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it would piss him off. He would get so mad. And
iron sharpens iron, man. Yeah.
Well, that's it. And so there was one preseason game, and I think it might have been the last one of the season or before the new season. And we were a little bit banged up. And so we did a little trick that we would put WD-40 on the back of our jerseys.
Okay.
So when the defensive lineman would reach around and grab it, their hands would
they slip off. Yeah, that's great, man. I love it.
Well, we wore blue jerseys, and they put a little bit too much, so you could see where
you could see it. Oh, man.
So thankfully, being a little banged up, I was only going to play the first quarter. Well, Ray was bitching and complaining to the ref that I had WD-40 on me. And so all I did after every play, I was like, Ray, shut up, man. Let's just get through the quarter.
Yeah.
But I was always walking backwards from the ref.
That's so funny. Yeah.
And I was like, man, I told Jim, I said, Jim, they've caught me.
Oh, gosh. That is hilarious,
and
man.
Enough, we were off. And he came up to me after the game, and I'm like, dude, I have no idea what you're talking about.
That's so funny. Oh, my gosh.
Everything were already off.
That's a great tease for our Wednesday refrigerator mover memory lane segment with Big John Davis coming up on Wednesday. Hey, we're out of time today here on this Monday morning quarterback edition of the Morning Rant. John, as always, man, you brought it today. Thanks, partner.
Glad to see you, Dave.
All right, we'll see you Wednesday. Hey, that's going to wrap things up. Once again, visit us on social media, The Sports Pig on Facebook, The Morning Rant's on Instagram. You can also view full video episodes of the show daily on YouTube. Again, we are the home of ESPN Radio in North Georgia on the Sports Pig app and online at sportspigradio.com. The king of college football, Chuck Oliver, is up next with Southern Sports Today. Until tomorrow, if you don't know, you better ask somebody. We'll see you tomorrow. Thanks for listening.
98.1 and 93.7 The Sports Pig, where hot takes meet hot mics.